In this video we have a look on why a graphics tablet is so great for digital sculpting, which products I would recommend, and how to set it up for better navigation using the pen in Blender while sculpting. Sculpting in Blender with the mouse is possible. However, to make it more fun, intuitive, and to add some very useful features, I do recommend using a graphics tablet for digital sculpting in general and also while working through this course. Having a pen in your hand instead of a mouse allows us to get more natural flowing brush strokes, and more importantly, we can use pressure sensitivity. This means with changing how hard we press the pen onto the surface of the tablet, we can change, for example, the strength or the radius of the sculpting brush. In Blender, you can find this little icon here behind different settings, which allows us to turn pressure sensitivity on or off. I'm using a Wacom Intus Pro M graphics tablet for quite some time now, which is a medium-sized tablet without a screen. However, a small-sized tablet without a screen is more than enough to get started with digital sculpting. For many years I was using the small-sized Wacom Bamboo for my professional work, and I created many sculptings with it. The larger, medium-sized tablets are offering a bit more precision when working, and most of the time they have some customizable function keys. However, the bigger a tablet gets, the less portable it is and the more space you need on your desk. Meaning, if you want to use it with your notebook on the go, for example, a small-sized tablet is probably better. If you keep it always on your desk and you have enough space and the budget, a medium-sized tablet might be the right solution. This tablet I'm using here can also be used wireless, which I find very comfortable, so I can highly recommend buying a graphics tablet with optional wireless mode. Wacom is a great brand with quality products, but it is also the most expensive one out there. However, in the last few years, new companies popped up with quality products, but much cheaper, like XP Pen for example, or Huion. Also, I would not necessarily recommend using a graphics tablet with a screen, especially when you plan to use it just occasionally. They are more intuitive to use since your hand-eye coordination is not so disconnected as when using a tablet without a screen. However, they are more expensive, less portable, you need a lot of space on your desk, your hand might cover important areas on the screen while sculpting, and they can lead to neck and arm pain. XP Pen once sent me this Artist 15.6 Pro graphics tablet with a screen for doing a review. It is a great product and I hadn't really to complain anything about the product itself. However, after using it for a bit, I switched back to my old Wacom Intus Pro M since I didn't really like sculpting using a tablet with a screen. I made a YouTube video on that topic, so check it out if you want to learn more about using display tablets as a 3D artist. Link down below in the video description. Now let's have a look on how to set up the graphics tablet to make working with it easier in Blender. In Blender we have to press the middle mouse button, basically the mouse wheel, to navigate. But a pen has no mouse wheel or a middle mouse button, but it has two customizable buttons. As you can see in this Wacom tablet properties, these buttons are set to double click and right click by default, which does not really help with using it for navigation in Blender. We will check how to customize these buttons in a second. First, let's have a look on how we can navigate in Blender without customizing the pen or the tablet and without always switching over to the mouse. First, we can use the gizmo up here for navigation. Works of course also with a mouse. Simply tap with a pen on it and move around to rotate the view. We can tap the hand icon here and move the pen to pan the view, and we can tap on the magnifier icon and move the pen to zoom in and out. When clicking on these axes, you can also switch to the direct viewpoints like front, right, top view and so on, which you usually do by pressing 1, 3, 7 and so on the numpad. However, here we always have to move the pen up, click on the gizmo to adjust the view, then go down and continue sculpting, and this can be a bit annoying. Another option we have here in Blender is to go to Preferences, Input and enable Emulate 3 button mouse. This is useful when you're using a trackpad or a mouse without a middle mouse button, which we need when we want to navigate in Blender. And then we can use Alt plus left mouse button click instead of middle mouse button click. That means if we now press Alt and then draw on the tablet, we can rotate the view. If we press Alt and Shift and draw on the tablet, we can pan the view. And if we press Alt and Control and draw on the tablet, we can zoom in and out. This already works great, however we always have to press another key on the keyboard. So there is a third option we have, which I am used to. Now let's go into the settings of the graphics tablet. These settings might look different depending on what product and what brand you are using, but most of the time the settings are quite similar. As mentioned, we have two customizable buttons on the pen. We don't need left click because tapping with the pen onto the tablet is already the left click. So I set up the lower button to be middle mouse button click and the upper one to be right click, because sometimes of course we need the right click. Now we can use the same shortcuts as before for navigation, but instead of Alt we press the button on the pen which we set to middle mouse button click. Meaning by pressing this button and drawing on the tablet we can rotate the view in Blender. Holding down Shift and pressing this button and then draw on the tablet we can pan the view, and with Control and this button and drawing on the tablet we can zoom in and out. So this is the option I am using. Also, one additional option we have when using this setup here instead of the Emulate 3 button mouse where we had to press Alt and all the other buttons, we can use the Alt button for something else. If I press Alt and the middle mouse button on the pen and then draw from left to right or from top to bottom and so on, we can quickly change to the different viewpoints like front view, left, right, top and so on. In the top left corner of the 3D viewport you can always see in which viewpoint you are currently at. Let's go back to the tablet settings. Here under options I like to switch from a hover click to click and tap. This option might be not available for all tablets. Hover click means that you can hover the pen above the tablet and it will still recognize when pressing a button. However, I find this to be very inaccurate, especially when navigating the view, since the pen is always wiggling around when pressing a button because it is hovering in the air and has no stabilization. Click and tap on the other hand only confirms the button we are pressing on the pen when we tap on the tablet. So the tablet is giving stability. And this also works great when we are using the middle mouse button click on the pen and then draw on the tablet to navigate. Then we can really precisely change the view. And this is also what I'm using all the time. If you have both options, see what works best for you, and if you only have hover click and don't like it, you can always go with the Emulate 3 button mouse method, which I mentioned earlier. Then I would recommend to set the mapping to full when using one screen, so you can reach every area of the screen with the pen, or you change it to the specific monitor when you're using two screens like I do here. When your graphics tablet has function keys, you can set one of the keys to switch from one screen to the other, so you don't need to do that manually all the time or switching to the mouse when working on the other screen. So this is my setup. There might be better solutions, but these settings are working really good for me, so they might work for you too. In Blender we have a lot of shortcuts to make working with it faster. However, the function keys on the tablet will never be enough to cover them all, so we still need the keyboard along with the tablet when sculpting in Blender. Depending on the size of the tablet, I would put the tablet either to the side next to the keyboard, like you would use your mouse for example, or directly in front of it, but always straight to the screen to make the hand-eye coordination easier to get used to. And now using a graphics tablet for sculpting in Blender should be much more fun.